Local support for News 6 has been provided by the Northwest Ohio Educational Technology Foundation, Bowling Green State University, and the members of WBGU-TV.
Hi! We're the 6th grade class from Pandora, Gilboa Middle School. Home of the Rockets. Welcome to News 6.
Hi, I'm Melanie Seifer from Pandora, Gilboa Middle School. Welcome to News 6. With today's first story, here's Aaron Etter.
For our first story today, News 6 visited a local barber who has been working in this profession for 58 years. Here's Kim Coleman with the story.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm Kim Coleman and I'm at the McDaniel Barbershop. I am going to speak to Mr. McDaniel, who is a barber.
Morning, Larry.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Fine.
Nice day out.
Yeah, sun shining.
Yeah, boy.
What is it like to be a barber, Mr. McDaniel?
Oh, it's kind of enjoyable. You get to meet people every day. I kind of like it.
How have hairstyles changed over the year?
Hairstyles has changed about every other year. We used to give, years ago, back in the 40s and 50s, we give short haircuts, and then they got long. Then the first thing you know here, a few years ago, they started getting short again.
How long have you been a barber?
57 years.
Did you go to any school to become a barber?
Yes, I went down to Toledo back in 1935 and 36. I went to Tanner's Barber College on Summit Street.
Mr. McDaniel, why did you want to be a barber?
Well, I'll tell you, circumstances kind of took care of some of that back in 1936. We just pulled out of the Depression at that time, and you couldn't get a job. And I was down Toledo one day, me and some other fellas trying to find work and couldn't find any. And we was walking around downtown and just happened to walk by the Barber College. And after I got home, I got to thinking maybe I ought to learn something so I could get a job. So I got in touch with the Barber College a week or so later. Well, a month after that, I was down at the Barber College going to school. That was because you just couldn't get a job hardly any place at that time.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. We enjoyed visiting you.
I was glad to have you here.
Back to the studio!
Today's News 6 is produced by the 6th grade class of Pandora Gilboa Middle School. Gilboa is located on State Route 224 between Findlay and Ottawa and has a population of about 208.
For our next story, today Rob Amstutz spoke with Mark Amstutz about the daily responsibilities of being a beef farmer.
Thanks, Austin. I'm Rob Amstutz with Mark Amstutz, who is a beef farmer. Mark, what is a beef farmer?
A beef farmer is a farmer that raises cattle for commercial use, such as hamburgers and steaks for the meat market.
What's the difference between a cow and a bull, Mark?
A cow is the mother, is what produces the calves. That's what's behind me right at the moment. And the bull is the father, that's what produces the calves. The bull is a lot taller than the cows. And I have one in the barn right now, but he is not running with the cows.
How long have you been a beef farmer?
I've been raising beef cattle now for 3 years.
How did you get started in this business?
Well, for 18 years, when I got out of high school, my brother and I milked dairy cows on this farm. So then the opportunity came that we could sell the dairy cows and get out of the business. We did. And for a year I raised sheep and I didn't like that, so I got back into cattle, which I knew all about, and I like cows, so that's why I went into the beef cattle.
Do you enjoy being a beef farmer rather than a dairy farmer?
It's just a great joy to have baby calves and cows around the farm.
I see some new calves. How old are they?
They range anywhere from the youngest being a week old to the oldest being 3 weeks old. And I have 6 more that are yet to have calves within the next month.
These cows are pretty big. How much do they weigh?
The cows right now that you see weigh around 12 to 1,300 pounds.
What type of food do the cattle eat?
Each cow gets about 20 pounds of hay a day and about 10 pounds of corn and pellet mixture.
What kind of advice would you give youngsters like me about how to be a beef farmer?
Yes, I would recommend it to someone that has an interest in cows, but just the enjoyment of watching them grow and knowing you've fulfilled your job of raising cattle.
Thank you, Mark, for your time.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed having you here. Come back anytime.
Let's move on back to the studio.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be someone else? Today's Kids View questions discovered who the students of Pandora Gilboa Middle School would be if they could be anyone in the world.
If you could be anybody, who would you be?
If I could be anybody, I'd be Amy Grant because I like to sing.
If I could be anybody, I'd like to be Jimmy Jackson because I like to play basketball.
If I could be anybody, I would like to be Christy Yamaguchi because I like ice skating and I hope someday I can be an Olympic ice skater.
For our last story, today News 6 visited Paul Augsburger and learned that when you have a positive outlook on life, there is no obstacle you cannot overcome. Here's Summer Howe with the story.
Thanks, Jesse. This is Summer Howe. We should all believe in ourselves, realizing that even though there will be failures in our lives, they can turn into triumphs. And one triumph is Paul Augsburger. Paul, how old were you and when did this accident occur?
I was 23 years old and it happened back in 1977 in September, just when we was getting ready to start the harvest season.
How were you able to get back to work?
Well, I had a specially equipped tractor that I had all fixed up and everything else, and that way I was able to get back into farming again and do what I wanted to do.
Did someone design the tractor for you or did you design it yourself?
We had a couple people help me with it. I had a design in my head that I wanted, and I talked to a man over in Chicago who happens to be paralyzed from the neck down that designs things like this, and he put in what he thought I needed and I put in what I thought I needed, and we came up with a lift that worked out real well for me.
Paul, what part of your body was injured in the accident?
I was paralyzed from the waist down. It's called a T10 fracture in my vertebra that when the elevator came down, it more or less crushed the vertebra, which severed the spinal cord, and that's why I can't walk.
Paul, what changes have you had to make in your life?
Well, I always have to pretty much watch where I go to make sure I can get into places like restaurants and things like that there, and had to do a few adaptabilities in our house, like a ramp to get into our house. And of course, I have to make sure that my wheelchair is working properly so I can get around real good and everything else. And just changes like that.
What have you learned from this experience?
Well, I've learned lots of patience, but other than that, I've also found that that the people themselves, when I come in contact with them, are very helpful and they're willing to help when they can.
If you could give advice to those who are disabled, what would it be?
There are so many resources out there for them, for so many people for them to also talk to that know what to do and how to help them and stuff. And if not, there are organizations that would help them and stuff, but that they should always believe in themselves, that there's always a way to get on with their life.
Paul, thanks for letting us come and good luck.
Thank you very much for coming out. I really appreciate doing the story, and I hope that this will help somebody.
Back to the studio!
Thank you for joining us today. Tune in next time when Crestview Elementary School visits News 6. Have a great day.
Local support for News 6 has been provided by the Northwest Ohio Educational Technology Foundation, Bowling Green State University, and the members of WBGU-TV.